so we have people in the front row. There we go, one. Welcome to the POA board meeting, or the POA general meeting. We're glad to see you all here. I know some of you flew in from a long ways out. We want to, recognize or introduce. You have a new board this year, as every year, and there's some other committee members here. So, and we're missing two of our board members for this year. Melinda McClure is working, her husband's here. She's our treasurer. And also Gary Buster is away taking care of some family business, and he's our member at large. So they're absent from us. But we have our vice president, thanks, buddy. And also Corky Olson, who also served last year, is our secretary. And then I'm Timothy Bryan. I think I know most of you, and I'm serving as your president this year. Also for committees, we have some other committees we're going to talk about later, but our architectural committee, I see Gary Haley's in the room, serving on our architectural committee, and Richard Huff is serving on that committee. Tom Olson serving on that committee. So they're in the room for architectural stuff. And yeah, Dick Wasik, but he's not here. So okay, so does everybody know everybody in the room? Is there anybody that doesn't know somebody in here?
Yeah, she doesn't.
She doesn't?
I don't. What's your name? I'm sorry. I'm Cindy Coleman, and my husband's over here on the other side of Joe. And we are temporarily in the fly lodge, but we have a lot behind Joe next to the storage building.
Okay. Well, we're glad that you're here. And we saw Walt Eastman's here, flew in from, I think, Arizona, right?
Up by Flagstaff.
Yeah, Flagstaff.
Let's get the award.
For the farthest?
Yeah.
Fuel.
Yeah,
Fuel.
And we have the Wilkies are here. I guess you guys spent a lot of time on the road, huh?
Yeah.
So we're glad that you could make it with us today, too, as well. So anyway, if I missed anybody, welcome everybody here. So with that, I'm going to let you take that item there about a quorum or where we stand with that.
Okay, we have 90 members, and 2/3 would be 60, and we have, I think, 29. We do not have a quorum tonight.
Okay, so tonight's meeting will be, we won't make any decisions as typical tonight. Those will be, any decisions that need to get made would get posted for electronic voting to the full membership. But it is still a good place to do discussion of topics and get some information out, and then we will post an update to all the members as well. Okay, so with that, we have some, I guess you have some thing you want to do?
Yes. Last year's board and the Property Owners Association got a lot accomplished. Y'all voted in the largest, most comprehensive budget that's ever been done to our estates by over 4 times. It gave the association a lot of working room and the ability to take care of the grounds and facilities here. I would like to have Beth Carton and Barnett McClure. Some There's a story behind this that we don't have time to go into it today. I'm trying to keep this to an hour-and-a-half meeting. 2012 board, and we'd like to show our appreciation for what y'all did did for the association last year, and maybe the association did it themselves. It doesn't explode.
What is it?
This hair already there.
What is it?
If anyone would like to contribute to the fund for these crystal presentations, the board would be happy to accept it. If for some reason more money gets donated toward these, the board will find something to do with the money for the association. But thank you. No, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
We got our name on it.
Yes.
Okay, you know, it gets kind of hard to get members to serve on the board, and sometimes it's, you know, sometimes it takes some time you have to invest, but, you know, everybody should, you know, consider serving on a committee or a board and helping out with the association, and we do appreciate the people that do put their time up, and so.
Can I do an acknowledgement?
Absolutely.
I'd like to say thank you to the pilots today who flew for
Yeah, that was great.
Fred and everybody who helped out with Dottie. Everybody's been great at coming together for her, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, I like doing it.
On that subject, I took a video from the patio lights. I'm not sure how it's going to come out yet. Get it on a cell phone. But when I can get a chance to see it on the big screen, anybody that wants one, email me. And I will, you know, get it out, or I can send it to the general list. And if you don't want it, throw it away.
Thank you.
It'll probably come out in QuickTime. So if you don't have it on your machine, you can probably download QuickTime.
If it's very big, well, you could get it to me, and I'll put it where it can get downloaded, and you could just send a link out.
Well, we can do that too.
Depending on what the size
You
is.
betcha. I have no idea what the quality's going to be like, because, you know, I got the screen on the sun. I couldn't see much of anything, so I just kind of guessed at it.
I want to also thank Tom Garnett, Richard Huff, and Jeff Bowen. These men were instrumental in acquiring a tractor and a finish mower for the property this past year, and they came in under budget on it. It's a 40-plus horsepower diesel. That's 40 horsepower TPO with a virtually new 6-foot finish mower, and they came in under budget. And that was buying a set of turf tires for it and having it made completely field ready. So thank you all, those men, for making that possible. Is there any other committees that we should acknowledge?
Okay. All right. So let's see. How about the treasurer's report? Since Melinda's not here, I think she gave that to you.
The beginning balance, January 1st, was $43,817.48. Since then, we've received dues of $11,200, and we've written checks for $589.25. Ending balance, March 31st, today, $54,428.23. There's 21 outstanding dues. 14 of those are for this year. 7 are from past years. And 3 are partial paid, people that pay quarterly. So, rough estimate of what's outstanding, close to $8,000. So,
Are you going to publish that?
we publish,
Publish which?
The people that haven't paid their dues, the people that have paid their dues.
talk about that a little bit, okay? I'll answer your question. Okay,
Any questions?
any other questions? I actually wanted to address an issue with that. That's why I just postponed it, just because I have an answer for that. Okay, so for old business then, probably what you're all hoping to hear about is the common grounds turnover. So here's the update. I have been in communication with Rob since the beginning of the year. We've had several concerns regarding the accuracy of the meets and bounds, whether it includes the lot 18, whether it includes the property on the south side of the runway. We've worked through those as much as we can. We're continuing to work through those. Rob's been cooperative in discussing that with me. I had set a target to have that done by March 31st, and we've not met that. He's still got some concerns, and I believe he's going to get with the surveyor to follow through. On our side, we have had two separate people, including a person that's an engineer and another person that's a real estate attorney, follow the meets and bounds and draw it on the map and verify exactly what's included and what's not included. I feel confident that the meets and bounds are accurate, but Robert needs to be comfortable with that as well. And so I guess I feel confident at this point that he is continuing to work with us on that, and that he's working through those issues, and hopefully he'll reach a point where he's comfortable in the next 30 days, and we'll get that signed. And so that's kind of where that stands, and I'll field any questions about that any of you have.
Does he still want to exclude that section of property on the south side of the runway?
Yes, and that was one of his concerns, but the meets and bounds was drawn by his surveyor, and we followed that, and that's, he calls it 8 acres, but it's really only 4 or something acres, and that is not included in the meets and bounds, so it's not part of the common grounds. And lot 18 is included, which is where our heliport lives. So, and somebody asked me about the walking path to make sure that that was included, and that is included as well. The meets and bounds does cover that, so that is common grounds where the walking path goes through the lots down there. So I don't see, and I have some maps and stuff, but we just don't see what's missing. It looks good to us, and we're hopeful that Robert will reach that conclusion soon and sign that document. Everything's been prepared and presented to him. He needs to be comfortable. I don't want him to sign something he's not comfortable with, but I want him to get comfortable soon. So that's where that lives. Any other questions about that? Okay. I'll skip that one until later down. Another old finished business was the signage. You want to take that, or Tom?
The last meeting we had, you reported that you had the signs.
Oh, my gosh.
But
Yeah, the last time, I'm Tom Olson. Last time I came here, I showed you a bunch of signs, and that we had ordered the signs. Richard and I went out a few weeks later, I don't know, a while later, not right away, but we had everybody come out, water, electric, everybody came out and said, this is where you can put it. They actually, the water department actually came out and dug the holes for us.
Wow.
So all I had to do was just, he said it would be better for us to dig the hole rather than you, and if you hit something, I said, go for it, So I just stood there and, supervised it. That was a lot of fun. Got the stuff done. And we got all the signs up, and all except for one sign. We were going to put that one sign up, but we thought, well, let's find out what's happening. And the sign was going to go in front of, what's the southern one?
Bill White?
Huh?
Bill White?
Yeah, right in front of Bill White's area on that. But I knew very well that, we're going to put a gate somewhere, or we're going to do other things. We're going to, there's enough signs down there, I thought, people still drive in years, you know.
Right.
They don't even see the signs. But we have one sign left in my hangar and some cement that wasn't used that I would like to get rid of. But Rich and I walked around there and we put holes in the base of each, get the water coming in, but get the moisture out and all that. And we finished doing that. So our signs are up. All the signs that we could buy are up, I should say. There's definitely a need for more signs. There are needs for other places where signs are on. One of our signs was stolen already. So that's gone. Maybe we replace it. Maybe we don't have to. I don't know. But we have to think about security. And so when these signs disappear, we're going to have to replace them. But we're also looking at other signs. Somebody mentioned that they like to see more signs, but maybe they have a reflective front on it so we can see it at night easier. The problem with that is that they cost maybe twice as much. So when you're thinking about it, see a place where they need to have more signs, a place with signs, how they could go up, where they could go up, just let the board know. And I'm not on the committee anymore, so you're gonna have to contact Dennis Keith, who's in charge of that now. So.
It'd be nice to have that extra one because that one ran over by the dumpster.
Yeah, but you straightened it out, didn't you?
Yeah, we got it straightened out, Fred and I, but it could have been damaged beyond repair.
Yes, and we have the one sign ready to go in right away, and it worked for most of the area on project. If you know of another place that, hey, we should put a sign up, we can put that one up. We can also get more signs too, so we have to budget more for signs if you want. We have at the end of the taxiway, the asphalt going out to the runway, we should have signs out there at that end too. But they'd have to be low, and they'd have to be reflective, and they have to be something that will stop, hopefully, tell people, hey, we better not go out here. Maybe airplane will run into us. But we should have something on that, and then the other signs. So whenever you think of get an idea, maybe the sign somewhere. Yes, go ahead.
I know I sent y'all the email that there's a Association for Retarded Children place by where we live, and they can make a sign that's really cheap. They have vinyl on. I think the 8 by 12 was like $22, and I can check with them if you want to see if they have a reflective.
Ken Kessler gave me an idea where we could get signs. I got on the internet, got 2 places for signs. There are 2 places in Tyler that have signs. Wherever we can get the signs for the best price and get the way we want it done, that's where we're going to go. So if you have places that people do signs that maybe give some for some organization that does it, and they use the money for it, fine, whatever we can. We just need signs, and now we can have somebody that looks at the signs when they drive over them or hit them.
That was up close in the windshield, I hope.
Huh?
I hope it was in the windshield.
Yeah. And somebody liked the sign so much they took it home with them. You know?
That seems to be a common problem around here. Signs disappearing, our street signs tend to disappear.
If you make them too nice, I guess they like them.
The fancy names maybe always in place. Anybody have any questions about the signs then, or suggestions about what we should do next with that? Or ongoing business committees. I don't know how many of you had read the document that I posted at the election time, and I made some statements in here that some things that I believed that we needed to do as a board to help alleviate and move some things forward. And based on that, the board is putting together some committees to work on some specific issues. So aside from the ACC committee, which we've already had for ongoing time, and the Common Grounds Committee, we have also established a couple more committees. One's to work on bylaws and CC&Rs, Also a communications / web, and we'll talk about each of these individually. And also a budget committee. And we currently had, a couple of years ago, we had a sunshine committee, or we still do. We have one person essentially that has taken the duty to be the sunshine person. Jerry Hinkie is that person. She's done a fantastic job of that. What we didn't do last year was we just missed a couple of things, but we missed putting a budget in for that, and I believe we need to have an amount in the budget so that if something comes up or something happens, that Jerry Hinkie feels that she needs to buy a card or buy a meal or flowers or whatever, for this group, that there's budget that she can just take care of that. I don't think in the history we've spent more than, $100 or $150 in a given year, but whatever the amount we decide is appropriate, a budget isn't money spent, it's just budgeted authority money. So we're going to, in our budget committee, going to work on the budget and making it a little bit more detailed and presentable, and adding the things that got missed, and then we'll present that to everybody before it's voted on so that we can gather input from the general membership on things. And so the Sunshine Committee would be included in that. Does anybody have any comments about the Sunshine Committee or what its function is? Yes.
Yeah, if you can't get a majority of the vote of the membership for that budget, for that Sunshine Committee, I'll put in $150 this year.
Okay.
If you can't get everybody to get together on it.
Okay. So I'm hoping, and I appreciate that. That's awesome. And I would do the same personally. So I feel that the Sunshine Committee is a very valuable position in this association, and I think in light of this last year and the circumstances that we dealt with Fred, that everybody pulled together. That was a much more drastic than somebody being in the hospital or something. So everybody that helped with that, and I'll tell you, it was somewhat stressful not being in the area when all that was going on. But everybody that pitched in and helped with Dottie and stuff, I mean, that was really awesome the way this community pulled together. So anyway, but the budget, a little bit more about the budget. The idea that I felt was that we would make the budget a little bit more detailed, add some contingency areas. A budget is just a budget. It's not money that's guaranteed to be spent. But if we had insurance, for instance, and our cost has been $2,150, I believe, for the insurance, if we budgeted exactly that amount and they came back and said it went up a little bit this year, it's now $2,175, we would not have the authority to pay that. And so when we put a budget together, the budget needs to include what that anticipated amount is and the contingency amount to go with that in case it increases. So I would like for us to put together a budget that includes those contingencies to make sure that we can cover those things. If we put whatever amount, $500, let's say, in the Sunshine Committee, and we end up spending none, that's okay. If we end up spending, half of it, that's okay. But at least the authority is there when the need is there to take care of that. So I would like to distribute that budget once it's completed to the general membership for everybody to look at and provide your input well before we do a vote on it. And if there's adjustments, input, or things that mean that we need to make some changes or adjust this or just that, or answer questions to make everybody comfortable, we'll do that. But then when we vote on it, my recommendation is that we don't do a line item vote, but we just put the budget out at that point after we've received all the input and put it out for vote as a yea or nay on the budget.
There was several $1,000s that was in the budget last year that was never touched. We didn't have any grass to mow. We didn't have any grass to fertilize. So that money, the money that had been pre-approved for that was never touched because it did not have to be touched. So that's kind of what Tim's trying to say. It's not the objective to spend it all. It's the objective to have it there. And if it does need to be spent, it's already pre-approved. So our budget that we're starting at this year is several $1,000s more than it would have been if we had a normal year, in those categories.
Boy, we have to say there were volunteers that mowed what was needed. I have to acknowledge them.
But it wasn't every week like it might be this year.
So a big one we got coming on here is our common grounds and with maintenance, and as all can clearly see, we're moving into the maintenance season, already, and mowing is needing to be done, and I know Garnett did some mowing the other day, and I sure appreciate somebody like Garnett stepping up and putting his time in like that and doing that. But we as an association should take that on, and so the Common Grounds Committee, Dennis Gill, I see is not here, but he was elected to be the chair of that committee, so we're I've asked for all the committees to have a board person be the liaison to that committee, and so that we have some flow of information between the committee and the board that can be reported back to you. And Wood Fairs agreed, because he's done some efforts already with Common Grounds, to be the liaison for that committee. So we'll be looking to Dennis Keel via Wood Fair to get some proposals in place on how we're going to take care of this maintenance, because that season is already here and we need to be well into it now. So
Tom Olson and his committee last year, at the end of the year, set out some common operating procedures for the tractor and the maintenance equipment, and I guess they can probably provide that online to y'all later. Basically, it says that the equipment will only be used on common grounds, cannot be used on any individual's lot or the building. It's basically there to be used only for the intent of what it was bought for. But it'll be up to y'all, up to you, the members, to decide if that's really what you want, the type of restrictions you want on it, and what you would want to see have done. The charge to buy this equipment is that the equipment needed to be able to maintain by mowing common grounds facility and being able to pull the roller packer, the runway roller packer. And of course the other parameters like the roll protection system, the curb tires and all that stuff, the tractor met those requirements. But if you wanted to, you really wasn't bought to do anything more than that. But it'll be up to y'all if y'all want to see about expanding anything out of what it's initially for.
So I understand something's been bought. Has that actually been used to mow the runway? I thought Garnet had John Deere run them the other day. Is that the new one, or?
No, I don't remember what month that was. We brought it out here. It was about a month after the tractor was bought, after it had been, a mechanic had gone through the entire tractor, changed all fluids, and had every leak fixed on the tractor and had it made field ready. It was brought out here for the Common Grounds Committee to inspect it, operate it, and drive it, to see if it met the parameters that it was bought for, and it did, and it's been in covered storage since. It's going to be up to Dennis Keel.
Dennis Keel.
It's not at Arrow Estates?
Ma'am?
It's not at Arrow Estates?
No.
No place to put it.
There's no place secure here to put it indoors. I mean, there might be at this time, but 4 months ago there was no place to put it.
Well, it was winter.
Yes. And it's stored under cover at a secure location, and it's not left the spot it was parked since it's been there.
So at this point, that needs to be turned over to Dennis Keel, and Dennis Keel needs to, I don't know if he's got anybody working with him or if he started or not. We just let him kind of take the ball with that and start to figure out a plan since he was elected to do that. And if anybody's, I don't know if anybody's got interest with working on common grounds with Dennis, I recommend you let Dennis know that and help him out. Because this is going to be a really important piece for us, and it's already time, so.
I'm not really clear on this. Who's supposed to be running the mower? Is that all of us just taking turns, or is there?
No, I mean, this is the first that we're actually, we don't even own the common grounds yet, but this is the first that we're responsible for maintenance. This tractor was just in last year's budget and was purchased at the end of last year.
Right.
And so, being as it was going into winter and all the grass was dead, it was a very dry year. They decided, I guess, to put it in storage. But it's now, the grass is growing and it's time, and we elected a common grounds chair who, this board feels that he needs to put his committee together and come up with a plan on how he's going to do that. Whether he's going to solicit volunteers to run the tractor, or how that's going to get done is to be decided. In the meantime, Garnett has done some mowing, and that's his tractor. It's parked down at my hangar, but he's done that on his own time and of his own volition, and we appreciate what he's done. But it's going to become a task way too big for some volunteer to just be doing it all on his own, right?
Tom Olson and his committee at the end of last year drew up guidelines for the operation of the tractor and operator checkout or whatever. Anyway, they drew up some guidelines for it and some maintenance procedures. In other words, you check, make sure the oil engine's got oil, and just.
Was that been given to Dennis at this point?
Yeah, I talked to Dennis a couple times. He just basically was busy and I didn't want to bother stopping since other people were paying for his salary right then, and I didn't want to have him stop. But we have gotten together with common ground. And I want to say that when we got together, the whole group got together, we were coming up with ideas. Okay, how do we want this done? How should it be done? What's the safest way to do this? And everything. And these are guidelines. And of course, the common grounds is common. We in the future soon, hopefully, will have the common grounds. And so, even though it's going to be a mower sitting out there, and we have one mower specifically for the common grounds, we as the people who belong in this community are going to be responsible. Hopefully, we'll help out doing things. I've got a mower, I can do a little extra mowing too. We're not going to be looking at Dennis, I hope, and saying, oh, this corner didn't get mowed right, and sit there and pound on the table and want him to come back and do it again.
Well, bottom line is, Tom, Rob is not going to take care of the common grounds. So we need to, because if we don't, it's going to be it's already 3 feet tall. Those of us that live here full time, I mow across the runway, my taxiway, and the roads. Well, I'm not going to do it for everybody.
No.
There's 150 people that own lots out here, and I'm not going to sweat off my back, keep this whole place up for 150 people.
No, but,
so we need to start.
We do need to start, and we want to make it look. We're using it, and we want it to get done. And like he said, we came up with these guidelines. These guidelines are on paper, and everybody can see it. And these guidelines are for Dennis Keel. I think Joe Fink even volunteered.
He's volunteered to mow for $10 an hour, and he needs the money. He's a perfect. So we know all the facts. We know what to do. We know Joe Fink needs the money. We know he'll do it. We got a tractor, so I don't see what the holdup is.
And he'll store the tractor.
He even said he would store the tractor.
So what's
that's
There's not a holdup.
What decision has to be made after that?
Really?
I mean,
you elected a common grounds chairperson. So I've not heard from Dennis Keel. I guess what I'm saying at this point is we need to not let this go long term. We're already in the maintenance season. We need to be mowing. We have the equipment. What we need to do is somebody needs to help Joe or help Dennis get on there and help with him. Let's get a plan in place. So we're all members, we all need to figure out how to move it forwards, but Dennis is the one who's elected to lead that, and so,
He should be
and I've not seen him, I don't know. You have a question?
Yes, sir. Does the tractor still have to come along on it to raise it rather than hydraulics?
Yes, it's been modified. We went to a triple stainless cable connection on it instead of single because
It's just a pretty hard deal for us old men. I mean, these other guys, not me. But to use a come along with a hydraulics on there because.
well, the mower is designed. It is a free floating finish mower, a tire on each corner, and the tractor will make 363 turns in 6 foot width. I don't know the situation you're going to get in where you've got to have to pick it up on a regular basis. The only reason we use it is to get it up, to get it on the trailer, and to raise it up to get it off the trailer. And the mower is designed to free flow.
It's not a brush hog then.
No,
It's not a brush hog.
it is a finished mower. It's got 3
So you
blades
can,
and it's been completely overhauled.
you can make a 180 with it
Very easily within a taxi law.
without tearing everything up.
Yes.
So I
The
feel
only
that,
problem you'd have with it is you're going over like some of the taxiways that have, the taxiway comes out to onto the runway axis, and you got the hill there, you know what I mean?
There's certain situations
You
like,
have to be able to lift it.
primarily not on the taxiways, but where if it got in a street application, some of the ditches out here between the street and somebody's lot, this piece of equipment is not designed for it. You need a brush hog. But that was not the parameter of the purchase of this piece of equipment. There might be something that might be available later this year, or another piece of equipment. This thing will probably run for several years.
You've answered my question, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. No problem.
I hope it works as well as it did when we tried it out for the entire process.
So then, Tim, I was just waiting on the committee then to
well, I
make
think,
a final decision, then how they're going to do it.
I think we need to get Dennis engaged right away, and we need to get him some help. Dennis obviously can't do all the work. That's not what he's elected to do. He's elected to chair the committee to figure out how we're going to do this. And we may need a long-term plan that varies later, but right now it's time to mow, and we need to figure out how we're going to get that done. And so, we need to get the tractor delivered to Dennis, and we need to get Dennis to get some people to help, and then need to sit down and have a working session and figure out a plan where we can start getting this property maintained right. So, and if anybody's got suggestions on how to do that, I wish Dennis was here. He's not, so I'm not going to throw Dennis under the bus. We'll get with Dennis and, I'm sorry?
You can call him.
Right now?
No.
We'll make contact with Dennis and see what we need to do to get him, to see what he needs for help to make that happen. Because it's time. Any other questions about the common grounds? The maintenance side? Okay. So Whitfair will be working with that to make sure we move that forward.
Can we put a timeline on that?
Absolutely. What would you like?
Well, I'd like for it to be mowed next time we come up.
We ought to break the tractor out.
So, I don't want it to be for another month, 2
No.
months going by.
I would agree with that, 100%. So, can you make contact with Dennis Keel in the next
Yeah, I'll
day or
give
two?
me a phone number or email or something like that.
Find out what the plan's going to be.
Okay.
Can get something going. Okay, so the next committee that we've talked about is bylaws and CC&Rs committee. I know this topic has kind of been around. This was also in the unfinished old business. There's actually some issues with the CC&Rs that really need to be addressed. I think they need to be addressed this year. I think we've all discussed and know that the CC&Rs are not consistent across the air park legally, and they need to be. And I am going to put together a committee to look at that and to figure out how we're going to get that accomplished. I'm kind of leaning towards getting the CC&Rs such that it includes the entire air park and not making any real other changes in the CC&Rs in order to get those signed. There's probably other changes that could possibly be done, but the more change, every change you add is going to make it that much more complex to get them passed by the 80% that's required. We do want to review to make sure with the new Texas law changes that there's nothing in our CC&Rs that are inconsistent with that. But does anybody have any thoughts or input about how that should be handled? Yes, sir.
The work that was done on it last year is still captured, right? On the CC&Rs.
Are you talking about CC&Rs or bylaws? To my knowledge, there's been nothing done on the CC&Rs.
Right, only on the bylaws.
Right. So the only thing that was done on the CC&Rs was the review to determine that our CC&Rs covered units 1 and 2, and a different set of CC&Rs covered units 3, and they need to be all one set of CC&Rs that cover the entire air park. Does anybody disagree with that approach? Okay. The way that'll need to be done is the CC&Rs, it's mainly in the very first page where it talks about the units. I don't know why the units were ever needed to be included in the first place. It should have just been Aerostate subdivision, and the legal description is there. That should be the entire subdivision, and that needs to be corrected on that portion. And again, we'll review just to make sure there's nothing that's contradictory to the new Texas law in there, but I don't believe there is in the CC&Rs. And then that will have to go out to every single current landowner, and we'll have to have notarized signatures back from a minimum of 80% of the landowners in order for those to be filed as legal for a change. So that's the CC&Rs. The bylaws, there's definitely some things in the bylaws that are inconsistent with Texas law. There's also some things in there that are inconsistent or they're ambiguous, particularly like in the area of voting and some other areas. And I think that we need to review those. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to put together a committee. I'm going to be the liaison. I'm not going to drive it. Somebody will be the chair of that. And we'll be looking for making the kind of changes that bring the bylaws consistent with the Texas law and fixing the things that are ambiguous and making them clear. And there's probably going to be 2 or 3 questions that will have to go out to the membership to decide generally how you want to approach some aspects of them, and then those things would be updated and corrected, and those will be circulated again for comment and input before we'll be looking to, and any revisions made before we'll be looking for a vote. I'd like to see both of those done this year. CC&R is probably first, bylaws probably second, but both items, and done that way by committee and circulated for input from everybody, and keeping changes to what's necessary to be accurate. Along that lines, what I think is appropriate, if you agree, is in the bylaws, instead of filling them full of policies and procedures, that the bylaws would indicate that this association is run in accordance with its approved policies and procedures. Because that way policies and procedures are not put in the bylaws. Every time we decide this is how we want to do collections, for instance, if that was in the bylaws, then we're doing bylaws amendments every time we change something or decide we need to handle that differently. If we have policies and procedures manual, then each policy or each procedure is approved as an individual document and added to the manual. And if we need to make a change, we just change that one item. Yes, fine.
Wouldn't it be easier just to say in accordance with Texas state law?
To say what in accordance with Texas?
Like
state law?
collections, it's very, very well written in the Texas code. It says exactly what's supposed to be done.
Okay, well, we'll let the committee look at that and see if that's an appropriate way to handle it. But we do have within our group, but we already have a policy for collections. And so we'll have to look and see whether that policy will need to be altered or changed and whether it's consistent or inconsistent with the Texas state laws.
Common ground maintenance would be a good example. You would want to have to amend the bylaws to change your common ground maintenance procedure.
Right. Right. But policies and procedures in
Right.
the manual, then
Right.
easily we could change one piece of it without having to change the bylaws every time. It's just a very cumbersome way to do it. So that will be coming forth this year as well, would be those two items, and there'll be full visibility for everybody. They'll be distributed before there's any vote called so that everybody can provide input on what you see as being recommended or suggested.
How about when you put the suggested recommendations out there, you also have a next to it or excluded in it what Texas law really says, so we won't have a bunch of confusion. People going and looking at Texas law and interpreting it one way when they've got it right there in front of them. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, there probably needs to be, in addition to that document, some description from the people who are making some of those adjustments of their thinking and what they're trying to accomplish by doing so. We also already voted last year that we would have these reviews when it's done, and I think that's still appropriate. We don't have any budget money for that, and so that will be something we're going to want to talk about when we look at our budget changes. Some amount in there to have that review actually accomplished to make sure that we're being consistent with Texas law. That wasn't done when these were written in 2003, but I think it's time this organization has grown up enough that we need to have them properly reviewed and make sure that they are consistent and appropriate. Any other questions or comments about those items?
Yeah, what's your timetable on that?
This year.
Well, I get a form of committee and I can have a due date for the committee.
Yes, I am. I can't tell you right now what that due date's going to be, but I would like to see the CC&Rs put out within 60 days from now for review. And in 90 days from now, I'd like to see, unless there's anything major roadblocks in that, I'd like to see in 90 days them going out, a copy going to everybody with the copy of the letter that needs to be signed and notarized to be returned. That's a big process. Fortunately, we're not looking at big change in the CC&Rs. We're looking at fixing the title to make sure that everybody's all under one set of CC&Rs.
This is a good time to answer Joe's question about the duties that are posted, because you mentioned policy procedure.
Yes.
When are you going to do a committee for that one?
For the bylaws and CC&Rs, I've been talking with people already, trying to find people, and if anybody's interested in being a part of that, let me know.
I'll be glad to. You
Okay.
haven't asked me?
All right.
I'll be glad to serve on the committee as well.
Okay. Done. All right. Joe, your question about the dues. We have approximately $2,500 outstanding in dues previous to 2012. And I believe that number was about 7 people? About 7 people. I'm sorry, the treasurer is not here, so I don't have some of those numbers, but I think there's 7, and there's outstanding dues for prior to 2012 in the amount of about $2,500. And according to the policy and procedures that we already have in place and have already been approved by this organization, then we're prepared to send them a 10-day notice to pay that, or else we will file small claims court. That sounds drastic, but some of these are going back to 2008. Yes.
I think you better reread the Texas State Code because it says there's very specific things you have to follow in order to bring someone to collections.
All right, duly noted. We will do that.
Do these people use the common grounds and the runway?
I can't answer that at this moment. I don't have in front of me the list of who these people are, but we don't have anything in place to block that. You know, we don't have police on our association or on our premises, so I don't know how we would stop that. This is the challenging part, and POAs have very little teeth, and apparently the state legislature has decided to take even more of that away. So it's a difficult thing, and we have in the past followed our current procedure and sent notices with an intent to file small claims court, and we've collected a great number of dues by doing that. So I don't know how, we don't have anything in our CCRA that allows us to file a lien on the property. And I think that the state of Texas has they definitely do have some things that I've read that kind of block a lot of that. So I don't think we can take their rights away. And we don't have anything that allows us to do that. Unfortunately, that's how and we don't have any police, so I don't know how we would enforce it. And I can tell you from a board member's position, that's the last thing I want to do is be a policeman on the board. So short of that, I don't know how else we're going to address that. It's difficult. As far as at that point, we would like to, we've discussed sending out that notice, and when the 10 days elapses, if there's people who we have not been able to collect from based on that, then we are prepared to publish or disclose to the members a list of those people with our intent to file small claims, and barring our review of the state. I've looked at them, Bonnie, but I want to look them again, and others as well, to make sure we don't step out of bounds, because we don't want to step out of bounds. But as far as the problem I have with current year is the way that our dues are collected now is $15 a month, or if you pay the whole year in January, it's discounted to $150. So to say we have 24 people that haven't paid their dues for this year, or some of them, 14, haven't paid their dues for this year, well, if we tried to go after that, they only really owe $30 because they only would have had to pay $15 a month. So it doesn't really make sense, and we don't really want to do that with our members in the first place. It's not a desirable thing to be suing our members, right? So we want to give every chance, and if somebody's got hardship, we certainly want to work with that. And so the 2012 dues, we're hoping that we're still going to collect, and we're not, really feeling like it's time. And it's not time by our policy to start enforcement anyway. Yes, Pat.
As I recall, being the treasurer last year, to answer some of the questions, a lot of the people that didn't pay dues are people that don't have homes here, they just own a lot, and they had not paid dues and are not here. So, as far as using the services, they aren't even here. So, does that...
Yeah, but nonetheless, maintenance has to go on, right?
Right. They still should be paying everybody else.
So unless somebody has a great idea, we'd love to hear it. Some of these, we didn't do anything last 2 years, I don't think, about that. So some of them have gotten even older, and I think it was about 2 years ago that we did do that. Actually, I sent out 10-day demand notices to, I think, 5 or 6 people, and I collected almost all of those because I did that. And some of them were they said they weren't going to pay because this place didn't do anything, and the maintenance wasn't being done, and all that. When I talked to them on the phone and said, "Wow, when's the last time you've been here?" and the reason that we actually ended up collecting it. So.
Well, I do know about actively pursued.
Yeah, it's not out of the blue. These people have been given, invoices and statements and contacted and such. So there's, I don't know, unless you guys feel differently, I don't know what to do when you reach a point when people just flat refuse to pay. What are you going to do? So there's a point when you got to do something. It's not fair to the rest of us that do pay.
Now, I can cite one specific case. There's one lot owner that has not paid for several years, and every letter I sent out to them or email, it was, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get that check in the mail to you," and I never saw the check. So they, I sent one out at least every quarter, and they owed several years, and that was a kind of a high dollar item that they needed to pay dues on. And I said, even if you could make partial payment, or tried to offer them some different options, and oh no, we're going to get it paid, we'll get the check in the mail. And then like a week or two later, I'd send an email back saying, I haven't received your check, what address did you send it to? Trying to be as cooperative as possible, and never did receive the check. So that's kind of how I handled one of them.
So I don't know if that entirely answered your question, Joe.
Yes.
Yes. So we'd be looking for, if somebody's got ideas on how to do that differently, that's fine. Otherwise, we'll review the Texas law, make sure we're in consistency, and then we'll proceed with the policy we already have in place.
I think, Joe, were you alluding to the fact that those names should be made public?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
I belong to 5 POAs, and they all did that.
Yeah.
So that's an option there, Tim. Make the names public.
Oh, yeah,
If the association wants to do that, that would be enough.
Well, I would be, I guess,
But not for that purpose, for not paying, just like.
I'm sorry. Did I miss something?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a bit of a problem with that when, like with the 2012 people, I don't think that that's appropriate. That may be just my personal opinion, but I think that it's entirely appropriate if the association is going to take action against somebody that does, you ought to have the right to know who those people are.
If they take action, make the names known.
Perhaps you have the names of the people that were 2011.
Correct.
Prior to that.
Correct.
2012.
Correct.
And then only hope that the treasurer did not make some kind of an error somewhere along the line, and that they had paid some dues. With that being said, those books were all reviewed, and they were all signed off as being good. So,
Well, in the demand letter that I sent out the last time, whether they choose to use the same one or not, but that's what I approached it from that angle. Our records indicate that this is still outstanding, and if your record shows something different, please help us by, so you've got to give that opportunity and let them have that opportunity to show if they believe that they have paid it. All right. Communications and website. I asked Gary Buster to be the liaison to have a committee to look at the communications and our website, the arrowestates.org website. It's going to, Gary and I have had several conversations about that, and he's going to take on the responsibility to work with some other people within the association and come up with a new design and what should and shouldn't be on there. I know we've talked about a forum, putting a forum on there so that there's a discussion area and a few other things. And along that same line, we talked about having these meetings become an electronic, where as today we're sitting here meeting, we would also have an electronic meeting open with a conference phone so that those that are remote could join the meeting. There's a number of complications with that, but Gary and I are working on that and or have had conversations about that, and he's working on ideas and things to put forth for that. I think it would be beneficial if some of the members could dial in and be here essentially virtually for these meetings. And but there's details we have to work out to see whether that's feasible or not. And I've talked to the mayor, and they do have internet here, and he is willing to put in a router here so that we would have wireless access to be able to utilize that technology. So those are just ideas, and if anybody has ideas or wants to work on that committee with Gary Buster, then I would recommend you do that. Comments or questions about that?
Yeah, which website are you talking about? I know there's two. There's property owners, and then there's the Arrow Estates with the pictures and flats and that kind of stuff.
Right, and that website is the developer's website for selling lots.
Oh, okay.
The Arrow Estates.
So that's not what you're...
Airpark.com is his sales website.
Okay.
And the other website's your website.
That is not actually correct.
Okay.
The arrowestates.org website is, that website has been stale now for at least 2, if not 3 years.
Yeah, I was going to say the other one's a lot nicer. Could it be a combination of the...
Well, we can't take what's his. What we can do is have asked for a complete redesign, come up with a complete redesign to bring it up to current designs and usefulness and all of that. So it can be useful for the members. Right now, it's not maintained at all.
Is that the one where you have the ID and the password to get in?
That's correct.
You have to have.
That's
Why
correct.
does it need to be password? Yeah, I think
Does
the
it
only
need to
thing that
be?
was put on that last year was
The treasurer.
the treasurer's report. I put that on there last year in PDF file. I emailed the quarterly report out to everybody and then put it on the website so that people could, anybody could go look at.
To add a password.
No, you don't need a password to look at the
You didn't need a password
No,
to get
you
to
did
that.
not need a password to get to the treasurer's report.
Well, unfortunately, Gary, there's going to be areas most likely on there that you wouldn't want public.
I don't have any secrets.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah, because
Anybody know about Beach Golf?
I can see that being the place where I would keep my phone numbers and email addresses and everything current myself and check what I would want to be public or what not to be public for the members to see. I want to keep my cell phone number private, but I want the association to have it in the event of an emergency. I would want to be able to do that, and I wouldn't want that area to be open for you to go in and decide that Tim's going to be public. See what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah. But to get on the website, I don't like the password protected, but that's...
Well, I guess that's the whole review and design that the committees needs to look at to decide what parts should be private, what parts should be public, and all of that.
I forgot my password about 3 years ago.
Well,
And I don't know how to get on it.
the upside is that current technology means that if you forgot your password, there'd be a link there that says, I forgot my password, and you can fix that on your own.
I think what you want a regular website, and then if anything is private, have something else.
You could have for the phone less private
Where would that domain exist? In other words, if you do it that way, you'd have to have a server. Who's going to furnish the server?
Well, that's going to have to be decided. Right now, I pay for that out of my pocket, but again, it's been stale, so it's really not of much value the way it sits, other than to post some documents and things out there and make them available. But, you know, the committee needs to look at that, review, and decide what's useful, what's not useful, what's important, what's not important, what's what's going to make this useful for the members to be able to utilize it, and what cost would that maybe be?
Is there not any way that we can work with Rob and attach onto his current website and be part of Arrow Estate and be a community instead of this one and this one and this one?
Well, I would presume that Rob would go away when all his lots are gone, so maybe he'll share some of the photographs and some of the things that are there, but his is a sales website. It's not geared towards membership.
Has anybody asked him if we could, be a part of his website?
I have had those discussions with him over the years, yes.
Yeah, if you look at other air parks and POAs, they have a public website, and it addresses, like she's saying, everything on one site. Then there's an area you go to for members only.
That's what we need to talk to Gary about.
Okay, yeah, so here, let me explain one thing, just in short order, because I know what you're talking about. The arrowestates.org website has a public section as well as a private section. The problem is there's not a lot of content there, and it's not really very current design. It's just not. So we can have both. But when you go to a place like that, where you end up on the website that's the sales website, and there's a link for the property owners, it's just directing you to another website. You just don't even realize it is, but it is. That's no different than what we have. So the problem is, our website is what you're judging off of and what you're gauging has not been maintained. It's stale, and it's never been developed enough to where there's a lot of useful content there. But there is definitely a public. You can go to the website and you can see some pictures and you can look at some things without having to log in. It has a public side of it. But if you want to get to private documents and various kinds of things that shouldn't be public, you have to log in to get to that side of it.
Now, my question was, if you go to a separate domain like that, whether it's a link or not, someone has to have a server and someone has to maintain that server and that website. Who's going to do that?
Right.
Who would do that?
Gary Buster's going to work on it.
It's being hosted now. It's being hosted now. I pay for it.
It's part of the communication.
Basically,
Committee.
Well, I have that too, but
That website he has, we just need to start getting pictures and putting on the website.
Yeah.
all right, Kathy's got the floor.
basically
If
that's
you want
what
some
you're
pictures that
asking
Rob
Gary
has,
to do, right?
put it on there.
I'm asking.
Just
You're
build a nice website.
Basically, you're asking Gary to come up with a plan,
Right.
to have a website, to have a public and a private site,
And to develop it out.
and to develop it and flesh it out and have content put on there.
Exactly.
That's his task.
Right.
Okay.
Is he accepting volunteers to help him?
Yes. You'd have to talk to him.
Is there a timetable for this?
There's not. As far as the hosting goes, it's being hosted now. It's just that I pay for it. I've not suggested at this point that the POA has to pay for it. That's going to be up to the committee to look at, and then you guys to decide, what gets presented and what you approve or don't approve. Okay?
How expensive would something like that be? I had no idea. To build up, did you set one up that you were talking about that you have, or build another one completely separate, a brand new site? Are they fairly expensive, or?
No, the domain cost about, the domain with the email is about $30 a year. The hosting for the site is about $120 a year with the database. So the cost is not that high. I've been paying for it out of my pocket. I have servers, but I don't host sites like that on my servers because if my internet goes down or something, then it wouldn't be available. By putting it on a hosted site and paying the cost, which is $120 per year, is just not that big a deal. And and it has a database, so that's where a lot of the data lives.
I had no idea. So.
Yeah, but that's what it is. And by doing it that way, then it's their responsibility to make sure it stays up and it's always working. And the email, by the domain, I pay a little more for the domain. You can get domains for $10, but I pay more because we get the email with the domain, the arrowestates.org email system, which includes the distribution list and a few other things. So, at any rate, all I'm saying at this point is, I did this like 4 or 5 years ago, I threw that up there because I thought it would be useful to the association. And the way things work is I just quit maintaining it and said, let it sit, and that's what's happened. But at this point in our life cycle of this association, it's time for the association to decide what they want, and to have the members through its committee can decide what they want, how they want to do it, and take ownership of it. And I'm willing to do development work, but I'm not willing to do decisions on what's on there, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and any of the rest of that. I don't want any part of that. So Gary's willing to take that on. I do that for a living. I have a number of sites that I maintain. I'm fine with donating my time to do some reasonable development work, but I'm not going to decide what's going to go on there. Someone else is going to have to decide and approve the designs.
So that would be
because of those comments about it's mine. It's not mine. It was never built to be mine. So it's time for you guys to take ownership and decide what you want.
So for those fees, we'd have a webmaster that would maintain it. Or, like say, you're an expert at it, but I'm not. I wouldn't know how to maintain that thing. So if you're not around, if it crashed, who would maintain it?
You have to have somebody that does that. There's a lot of people that are in that business to do website development.
That's what I just asked. For
Right.
that price, you get a webmaster?
No, that's hosting. That price is hosting.
Not maintenance.
So what would it cost to get a webmaster?
To hire somebody, I couldn't tell you right now. A lot of the more current websites are designed such that you don't really have to, you can change the content without having to do development work. So, like the current website has the pictures, every time you go there it has a different picture of an airplane. So,
Is it something that the head of the committee could maintain? Or the committee?
that depends on different levels possibly. Again, I don't want to make the decisions on that. I've turned that over to Gary. So if you have ideas, take them to Gary. I've been willing to maintain it as far as the development work. Gary's going to be in the driver's seat on what's going to be on there and how it's going to work. For now.
You know what, to answer Joe's question, I've had several business websites, and it's about $280 a year to have someone change your content. You tell them what you want, you send them the pictures, they
So you
host
have a real
it, they do
webmaster.
everything.
That's what I said, webmaster.
Yeah, I mean, it's $280. We're talking about $51,000 in the bank. This is trivial.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to waste a lot of time on it. I think when Gary gets his committee together, then decide what to put on would be interesting.
Yeah, get some pictures and like the weather, and it tells you the, that kind of stuff, like an airport website.
It's not going to cost a lot, so anyway.
Well, right now, maybe you guys just want me to bail out, but I've done it and offered to do it for free. I'm an IT person. That's what I do.
Well, I think that's what Joe was asking.
But if if it's not me someday, then yeah, then you got that cost if you want to have someone else do it. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal.
So I'm just saying, I just don't want to own that anymore, and or claim that I own it. You guys do what you want with it and decide what you want on there and make it useful. If you want it to look just like Robert's, then feel free to do so. I don't want to be in that driver's seat.
I want to say as a secretary, I really don't want to lose that distribution list because Beth and I worked really hard on keeping that up, and that's what it's going to be about.
I've got about 1,000 emails with that list on it if you need it.
No, it's not. It's not the same one.
No, there's a lot of them.
I personally would wish my address would disappear off those lists. I don't like my email address being sent around in clear text like that. To mass quantities. I receive more stuff from people now than I ever did. All right, so, all right, does anybody here have anything that they want to,
For you about lift communication?
yes.
Okay. Gary Buster has sent out the concept of an idea that he's got on the blog section for this web area. He did not do any great in-depth explaining of it, but it sounds fairly unique. I have not been exposed to this type of blog area before. Gary, this is evidently one of his little side interest things, and I'm sure he would appreciate any other people being on this committee with him, where he's not the only one. I think Gary's going to be labeled for a little while. But it's something that he has started. He put out some information about it. It got my interest. But some of this stuff is way over here with me when it comes to this stuff. So just get with him and send him whatever questions you want to get his answer on. Anyway, that's it. That's all I've got to say on that.
You would, I'll go ahead and get a hold of him and speak up anything I can do.
Okay.
It's a forum, actually, that he's talking about. It's not so much a blog. I mean, it really is a difference between the two, but it's a forum. There's a new thing that I wanted to bring to you as members for discussion, and we're going to need to decide what to do with. We've not had this come up in our association before or on our property, but we do have renters in one piece of property, and those renters are utilizing the lakefront property. I've not been there to see it personally, but I guess then they have a lot of friends that also come and utilize it.
We don't, but we own property.
What's that?
We rent, but we own property.
So I'll rephrase.
Thank you.
And say we have renters that are non-members.
And there are separate families in that one structure.
Well, I think the question that I would like to ask of you and to see is, whether we as an association want to consider whether renters have full access to the facilities or not, and whether renters have the privilege of utilizing the space to invite all of their friends for full access to certain premises, parts of the premises. So apparently some people have decided that it's a little bit of a ruckus sometimes down there, but the basic question is, these people are, and I don't know them, I don't have anything against them, so I'm not doing that, but just saying that they're utilizing the property and bringing a lot of other people in. So us as members, if I wanted to go down and enjoy the lakefront or enjoy the boat ramp or whatever, then I would feel a little out of place because there's this whole big group of people that I don't even know who any of them are. I guess I'm soliciting what you feel is appropriate for the use of the facilities and how much of that should be expended to renters. Renters that are not members. I'll just say non-members. Non-members.
I thought it was supposed to be single-family dwelling, but I'd also be rented.
Well, whether it's a single-family dwelling thing, that's another issue that I don't know, where we stand with on that, because there's two residences kind of living there, but maybe multiple families into one. But I don't know that the issue I'm more concerned about at the moment is, since they're not members, they're not members of this association, do they and should they really have access to use our facilities?
Private property owned by the association?
Right.
Is the rentee an owner? Person renting the property, is he an owner?
No.
Yes.
They're non-members.
No, the owner.
Oh, yes. We're talking. We all know what this is, right? It's Don Shipley's property,
What
right?
I'm saying is that he's paying dues, and they're his.
Guest or
It's not considered a business.
And they invite their friends, just try 20 people down there.
Yes.
Has anyone contacted Don and said there's a problem?
Had anybody contacted?
I tried, but because his email, he's over bounced back. So I sent it to his other email address and it didn't come back, so I don't know.
I've got a feeling Don thinks there's just more family there.
Well, that's possible, but that's his problem. See, I don't know how much of that's our problem. My
Again-
problem is, and my question to you is, whether or not they should, and I don't know if I'd really have a problem if the renters, if the non-member renters, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to include you guys in this. I realize you guys are members, okay? These people are not members. And I don't know that I would care so much if they went down and used the lakefront property or went fishing or something, but if they come down and then have a big party down there with all their friends and buddies that are also not members, I think that maybe takes the use of that property away from you all as members.
Are they trashing the place out?
Okay, I don't know, so, well,
Got a question. For all the times they've been down there, have they cleaned up the mess?
we've got the answer to that.
I haven't seen any mess down there. I've been down there quite a bit. I've seen these guys down there, the guy and his wife or girlfriend or whatever, and they're nice folks as far as I know. I haven't seen when they've had their friends there, but
I know, I've heard some issues on the road with them driving through there real fast and stuff. That's kind of a separate issue, and we need to address that with them as well.
Right.
Make sure that they follow.
But I live in Alaska and I have family in Houston. They're going to come up here in the summertime and use the lakefront lot.
Sure.
And I don't really think there's any problem with that. If there is, then I've got a big problem with the association. But
I don't think there's a problem with that. And,
well,
and
I don't understand why the renters, because at first I asked them who they were, and I'd never seen them before, and they said they were renting and whatnot. And I thought, well, shoot, if Don's up to date, then what's the difference? It's a bonus. It's how he can, rent it out.
Sure.
Well, the difference is you're a lot owner and you're inviting your friends or relatives. That's the difference. These people are renters. They're not lot owners. They're not part of the POA, and they're inviting their friends and they're inviting their friends. Exponentially, there could be 100 people. And I see people
Are there
down there
that
all
many
the
people
time.
down there?
Well, it used to be that
How many
way.
people have been
If
down
you're an
there?
At
older
least
kid,
20 at one time.
Really?
I had a
okay,
hard time
so
driving my boat, getting it loaded to the ramp and move the car.
So this is
yeah, it gets bad.
this is good discussion. Garnett, you have comment?
I see this as blossoming into something that's going to affect the runway. We're talking about we're a public use airport, but the more non-aviators you get out here in rental situations may not have the same consideration for the runway that the rest of us do. Okay, if the group is mixed here on whether or not they can use the lakefront, that's good for discussion. But when it comes to using the runway, if they're going to get up there and start using the runway for drag races and having a good time, then we got a problem, and we need to nip that now. We need to understand what the rules are going to be.
Well, the sign does say that it's for use by its members and their guests. So the question is, are they guests of Don's?
So a member can use the runway for drag racing? At last, I got a
Get your orders.
Okay, yes.
See, I think we got to be careful to separate this from the people and the common grounds and the association and what the dues are for. My mother passed away. She has a condo in Florida, and the family decided to rent it. It comes with a whole bunch of common area, the swimming pool, and everything. And it's being rented by a college student, and a part of the rent has to pay the association dues and maintenance fee, and there's a whole bunch of rentals there. Now that's a different situation. Ours is an air park, but I think we have to tie it to the property and what the dues are for and define it. I think the personalities should be out of the.
Yeah, personalities are
Yeah,
not.
because you can have good people or bad people. You can have an owner who has 500 people down there on a weekend and he's got one lot.
Yeah, the basic question is, and I'm a member and I've used the air park and had friends down there with me as well. The basic question is our facilities for the use by its members and their guests, and does that extend to saying that these people are now guests of Don Shipley's, or they're not members? So are they guests of Don Shipley's or not? Maybe this is not a problem. I'm not saying it is. I'm just asking the question.
You gotta ask one other thing, okay, so are these people guests of Don Shipley? How far does that guest list go?
Right.
These people bring guests, their guests bring guests, their guests bring guests.
Right.
We're gonna be responsible for one of the kids down there that we don't even have any clue to who they're tied to, member or guest or whatever.
See,
Get
that's
hurt down there.
a valid point, that there's a liability issue, because as a member, I mean, I pay dues, so I can't really like sue myself. If I go down there, it's kind of at my own use, I'm a member. If I take somebody with me, they're my guest, but these people are not even members. And so, right, yes,
Is rental property considered commercial property?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
No.
You can rent your
Because
house
it's
out,
easy in
it's
order-
not commercial property.
Say it's single family?
Yeah, be commercial property, yeah.
Well, we got the issue of whether
No,
it's
it's
single
not.
family or duplex or whatever it is, but I don't know.
Well, it's not an issue, there is two different renters, two checks.
If you got a fourplex, it's commercial property.
Yeah.
Or a
Okay.
duplex. Could be both.
Maybe one way to look at it would be if someone does decide to rent their place, the people that they rent it to are the guests, and that's the end of the line. Unless, they bring their mom or something like that, but they can't be having parties with a
So
bunch
if I-
of people down at the thing.
So if I invited some friends to go with me, they're my guests, but that doesn't extend to them to be able to invite other guests. So what you're saying is then,
The
if
renters
these people
would
are
be the guests.
Don's guests, but those guests don't get to invite more guests of theirs.
And if you make a policy now, then it's clear and it's no big deal.
And if the
But,
renters understand that when they sign the rental
Exactly.
agreement.
You could put a limit
The
on
bottom
how
line,
many guests that somebody could have.
If you're an owner, you could have 5,000 people down there. If you're a renter, I've gone to other places, the POAs and everything. Normally, when somebody, and they do allow renting, like places down in Florida, they will allow renting because people come and go, and they can rent the place out. If they are renters, and we had a policy that we allow renters in places, if we're only living there 6 months out of the year or something like that, they have policies there that the board has to, or somebody has to do a check on these people. What type of people are going to, what do we say?
Background?
Background check.
Background check
Yeah.
on these people. And so, if you wanted to rent your property out, which we don't have right now, it says we are non-commercial, we're single family. No, nothing in there about renters. But we do have renters right now. And you said that if you can have your family come, that's something completely different. And you can rent it out to your family, and there's no problem with that. It's the people that come in and have no relationship, they're not aviation oriented maybe, and we have no idea what kind of people are coming in.
The simplest thing is
That's what
whoever's
has to be
renting
looked at.
has agreement, has it written in paper, what the restrictions are for the renters, what they can and cannot do.
If we have a policy to rent,
No, the owner, the member who owns the property that rents it,
You have
has
restrictions.
the renter sign an agreement of what they can and cannot do.
that'd be good. Yeah, I mean,
Leave it to the
that'd be something
owner
that have
and
to
the
be
renter.
included in that. But I mean, first of all, we are just single family.
We don't.
We're not, this is not a rental.
We don't have any control over the rental agreement. I think our limitation would be to tell that we have a policy for the members, and it'd be up to Don Shipley or whoever to write his rental agreement
That's what I mean.
as appropriate. Let me get Don, where she's.
Until we get a hold of Don, we don't know if he does have something like that in the
Right.
rental agreement already.
And it's
So-
not our,
and-
that's not our,
Right.
all we can do is decide what our policy is, tell Don what our policy is, he needs to clear it up with his renters, and then if after that point of some reasonable time, if we've decided that's what our policy's going to be and we've notified them, then after some time we would expect them to start being in compliance.
That should be a part of the CCA.
Well, I was going to go with that.
Policy.
I've got some basic concerns about trash and just upkeep, compartments. But where I really have some heartburn over is liabilities. We as owners, we are bound to the policies and the procedures and the requirements that we have to adhere to. And we are paying our insurance. You get a renter come in, he can be bound to that too through the agreement. But if an owner brings in a group of people, whether it be 2 or 200 for a weekend, the owner is liable for those people.
Yes.
If the renter is there, that's one step removed.
Yes.
And while they may be covering the owner's monetary liability through the rent, that's kind of where it stops. And aviation related, we all know these things have got teeth on them. And we don't need a 4-year-old running out there trying to play football on the runway and getting hurt. That's where my concern is. So,
There's floatplanes at the waterfront.
Airplanes at the waterfront.
Oh, yeah.
So is
Same thing.
Is the consensus at this point from this group that then the renters, in this case, become guests of Don Shipley's and he's responsible for them, but they, being guests, are not extended the privilege then to invite additional guests? Okay, so what we are planning to do is to, of course, Corky will publish the minutes of the meeting. And the things that we've talked about, like this specific thing, I'll send an update out to the full membership so everybody understands the things that we've talked about and what we're doing, and see if there's any other comments, and we can proceed to draft a policy that looks like that, and put that out for approval. And if we get approval, then that will go in our policy manual, and we'll notify Don Shipley that we've decided on this policy, and would he please inform us of what the standing is between him and his renter, and make sure that they're in conformance with policy. You have a question?
Well, I would make it a little simpler. In the park on the hangar, the man there named Jason, I believe.
Justin.
And he is acting as the manager for Dawn. He's doing the collecting stuff. Let's just write something up and get to Jason, let Jason take care of it.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely work in that direction as well, because you're right, and I think we tried to reach out to him as well, but at this point we didn't have a policy to say anything. We were just trying to figure out where do we stand on this, because this has not come up. But it seemed like it could be a concern. So is there any more comments or questions about that?
Yeah.
Yes.
If there is a problem down there, regardless of who's there, they're causing a problem, and we don't know them, and they're not property owners. I spoke to the game wardens today. That land is owned by the Natchez River Authority, and they have authority over it. If you call them, they will respond, and they will make them leave. So you don't have to call the sheriff, but they can get there quicker. They'll come by boat or by car. In fact, she drove down there today to review that area, because I told her if I had a problem, I'd call her instead of shooting somebody. And she made me promise that. She said, I got a Glock, so she'll run over there in the boat. So if you got a problem, give them a call.
They've got all that authority, but that works.
I want to apologize to you. I usually bring big sheet thing where we can write things down on, and we don't have a board or anything, and that drives me nuts. Do you want to turn a couple of these topics into a motion to be presented to the board, to the members of the association for a vote?
You don't need a quorum to do a motion.
Don't need to do it.
We'll put it out for a vote. We'll do that. We'll put it out as an update first, so we can get more comments. Okay, so I said I was going to try to keep this meeting till 7:30, and we already went over that. Does anybody have anything they want to put out? So our next meeting is June 30th. June 30th at 6 o'clock, and again, the minutes will come out, and then I'll send out an update on some of these topics that we're discussing to solicit input from others. Yes.
I'm not going to be around in June, and I'd appreciate if it's possible to get an agenda, for the meeting, so that I can call someone that is down here and give them my input.
We're going to try real hard to make the meeting available electronically.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't matter, an agenda would be awesome, is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Because it would help.
Okay.
I might be able to help out with that too.
I'm sorry?
I might be able to help out with that. The phone services I've got, it's got meeting rooms
Okay.
where you can dial in.
Well, I have a GoToMeeting account I use a
Okay.
lot. And so we've talked about some ways that we could utilize that. And it has a limitation of 25 members that can join it. And I think I can easily get it bumped to 50 there. They do have one circumstance for that. We think 50 probably would cover it. And so the only question then is how to get them to participate. And some of the things that I've been on there, I've done that a lot. I've done it a lot with big groups. Typically, you mute everybody's line. And if somebody has a question, they can post it in the chat. So we would be monitoring that. We could either unmute that one person if they wanted to speak directly, or we can repeat their question and answer. So there's a lot of things we can do, and we're going to talk about how we can maybe make that useful.
One other thing I wanted to mention in the group here. Apparently, I've got a big old oak tree on my property that died after the drought. And so it's dropping branches. I've got wood on the ground. If you guys are going down to have yourself a party down by the lake, need some firewood, stop by lot 61, help me get it up.
Yeah, that's a good problem.
It's a big tree, it'll last a long time.
Yeah, just take a piece with you as you go. It'll help all of us, especially me.
On the CCRs and bylaws, we as groups and committees and all that can try to hammer this out. On something like this, a competent lawyer that specializes in real estate law and property owner and homeowner association CCRs bylaws and is up to date on all the new changes that the state has done, could save a lot of trouble. Someone that's got a lot of experience, or decades of experience in this, can tell us what he's seen that works and what doesn't. And if there's conflicts between the CCRs and bylaws, he can point it out to us. The association could be making decisions based on what the association's lawyer would be telling them and suggesting to us. It just depends how fast you want this done and how effectively you want it done. I've received from three of the law firms we use here, Tyler, one man's name has been the #1 reference to all three law firms. I do not think there's any conflict of interest on any of our family having used him directly. His name is Jim Gillum. The man is in his 60s, and this is all he's ever done. He was recommended also as #1 by a fourth law firm that only does real estate law. So I would be making a suggestion that the Property Owners Association spend some money for professional legal guidance on this. I know I have not spoken to Mr. Gillum. I don't know if I've ever met the man, but when three of our law firms pick him as #1 reference, I'd say he comes pretty highly recommended. We have had associations. This is going to be the most important document this association will draw up and make a decision on. It will affect how you will do business, how easily and effectively the the association and all future boards will do business in the future. If you do it right and agree upon what y'all are wanting, this could probably be done, finished this year.
I don't think this association can agree on anything with.
Well,
No offense, but I mean, if you get a lawyer in the works, it's just going to cost money to disagree.
I would like to, I guess I would like to see the committee decide what it is that needs to be changed and what direction that needs to be done, and then we did agree that it would get legal review, but I think that I'd like to see the committee decide on what those issues all are first, and then speak to an attorney to ask them what kind of cost we're looking at to have it reviewed, and propose that back to the membership to say, this is what we've done, this is what we're looking at, the changes, this is what the lawyer says that the review is going to cost. And
I think if you can get everybody to agree on a draft, then having it reviewed would be awesome.
exactly.
So, but until that point, I don't think getting a lawyer involved is going to help anything except drain the bank account.
Yeah.
Dragging it out.
Right, if nobody has anything further. Do you have anything?
I've got one more thing.
Okay.
We've been trying to get this common grounds turned over for over a year. I do not, in our business, if something is taking anywhere much over 20% of the amount of time that this is taking, we would have brought in another law firm to review why this had not moved. I would like to suggest that if in 30 days the common grounds have not been turned over, that up to $2,500 be appropriated for another real estate lawyer to look into what the problems and the complications are of why the common grounds have not been turned over.
I don't understand why we don't know by now. It's been a year.
I want to be real careful here. First of all, Robert is being very cooperative right now. He's got legitimate concerns, and I understand them. He's overseas, so communication's not like every day. I don't want to jeopardize that because I think we're moving in the right direction. I think that we came this close to having it done by today, and I think we're still that close to getting this done. I think it can be done in the next 30 days. I think if we don't get this done in 30 days, that we should talk about. We need to have a really darn good understanding as to why. But I don't want to jeopardize. I don't want to jeopardize right now. There's probably 10 recorders going in this room, and I really don't want to take this someplace where we're going to jeopardize this communication that's currently going between Robert and I in moving this. He's got legitimate concerns, and we've researched and resolved those, and I think we should be at the end of that line. I hope this doesn't go much longer, but I don't know that there's an alarm yet.
Then let's not even talk about the lawyer right now.
What are the concerns by Robert and by the board? I haven't heard anything.
The board right now doesn't have any concern. Okay. Robert's concerns is this is where I'm uncomfortable is what I say. I'm going to be very careful because I have no doubt in my mind that he'll be listening to tapes by tomorrow. And I'm not trying to throw Robert under the bus, but Robert wants to make sure. This is a very complicated. You need to understand that this is not like a square, right? This is like a taxiway and a road and a taxiway and a runway and a walking path, and it's a very, very complex meets and bounds description of the property. And he had this all under a whole bunch of different deeds that he's pulled pieces out and developed. It's not like it was an easy lot that's easy to describe and easy to understand. It's a very difficult meets and bounds to follow and understand. Robert wants to make sure, for instance, that the 4 acres that's on the south side of the runway was excluded in that meets and bounds. And we went through and tracked and made sure that that was excluded. He wants to make sure that Lot 18 is included because that's supposed to be part of it. So we had to go through and track and make sure. these are legitimate concerns on Robert's parts, and they should be on ours as well. But the good news right now is Robert and I have been working on that and looking at these things and verifying all these little details and facts. And I think that we're pretty close to saying there's not very many more that need to pop up, that we've already identified them all. And if we can decide that these meets and bounds are accurate, there's no reason why he shouldn't sign it. And at that point, if he doesn't sign it, then I would say we need to know why you won't sign it. But I think we're that close.
And let's not jump the gun and
I'm
just
not.
leave it alone.
I'm not. You need to understand that I'm not. I'm saying I don't want to jeopardize it. I don't want to make any threats here. I think we're very close. And I'd like to get that done. Our best interest is to get it signed and turned over without incurring legal fees. And so, yes.
Well, on that same note, I guess I am concerned about the 4 acres south of the property. And I've sent an email to Rob and never got a response. I think that's because Rob and I have got some, I hope there are some tape recorders in here and he does get to hear it. Because when I bought my property, he promised that would be considered common grounds and was going to be turned into a park, never to be developed. So if he's so concerned about having that 4 acres out, we all know that there's a lot of water in there, especially right now. I guess that concerns me because I don't want to see it developed. I sent that to him in my email and I've never got a response back from it. That was recently.
So, there's other areas that we felt like should have been common grounds that he said they would be, but as it turns out, they's not. It never was defined in the CCNR said you had to turn over common grounds. There's no definition anywhere of what common grounds is.
Unfortunately, it was a verbal agreement between myself, Mike Rackley, and Rob. And he also did that to Frank Rapino, who I bought his piece of property now since, knowing that 4 acres was in jeopardy of not being in the common grounds. And as it turns out, obviously, it's not going to be included in the common grounds. So I guess at that point, it's not a threat, but a promise. I'm going to have a lawsuit against Rob if that's the case. Because
and that's obviously, I mean, we've all
tries to develop
kind of got those kinds of, there's been promises made and stuff, but they're all individual and different. Things have kind of changed over the years. I don't know how to, what he's, like at this point, what he's turning over and identifying as common grounds, we don't have any way to say, that's supposed to be, and if we probably do that, we're probably it's going to be even longer to get it done.
Yeah, I don't want to delay it. That's not my point. I'm just saying I hope there are some recordings so Rob can hear it. That'd be great.
I don't want, when he does hear it, him to perceive that there's a threat coming from the board. Because there's not. Right now, he's been cooperative. And I feel he's got legitimate concerns that needed to be made sure of. Because this is a transaction that needed to be right.